Satoru Gojo, the most popular character in the hit series Jujutsu Kaisen, as well as the most powerful, one of the most recognizable characters in anime and arguably fiction in general to come out in the last decade. Everything from his iconic design, broken powers, and cool demeanor, everything lined up for him sticking in the minds of readers and viewers. But is that really all there is to him? A lot of the louder fans of Jujutsu Kaisen might tell you so. In a day and age where style and hype moments seem to be valued over actual character depth, someone looking from the outside might say that Gojo is just another example of that, a hollow shell of a character hiding behind his overwhelming strength. But I think that's not the case at all. Gojo is a character that's much more deep than just the surface cool level. In fact, there's so many layers to his writing that it would take a whole series to go over it all. But instead of covering everything about him in just one video, I want to go over one specific scene, the scene that transcended Gojo from just another cool mentor character to one of the most memorable characters in modern anime.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
This scene broke the internet when it first debuted in the anime. It was memed, reposted, made edits of, and quickly became a moment of icon on par with classic moments like Goku's Super Saiyan transformation. But what makes it so? What is it about this scene that makes it so special that's talked about even to this day? It could just be because it's cool, but in fiction, a lot of greater stories aren't just cool because of the visual spectacle. Going back to Goku's Super Saiyan transformation, the scene isn't just cool because the transformation is visually interesting, it was cool because the form itself was built up to throughout the entire Namek arc, and hits a breaking point when Krillin is killed right in front of Goku. It's in that moment when Goku transcends from just being a Saiyan from Earth, but a warrior of legend. So what is it about this scene of Gojo declaring himself the honored one that makes it so special? Well, that's what we're about to dive into today. Today we'll be talking about Satoru Gojo, the honored one, and what makes this scene so special.
You crying?
Before we talk about the scene in question, we first have to analyze the entire arc it takes place in and the events leading up to it. When we are introduced to Gojo at the beginning of the Hidden Inventory arc, he's completely different compared to what we're familiar with. It might not seem like that on the surface, but if you pay close attention to what he says, you'll notice the difference in his arrogance. Gojo during the Hidden Inventory arc is loud, unserious, and is disgusted by the idea of weakness, while adult Gojo is much more reserved. What he displays in later parts of the story is not arrogance, it's confidence. Confidence in his abilities, confidence in himself, and confidence in those around him. During Hidden Inventory, however, Gojo displays a much more selfish and narrow-minded viewpoint. He considers strength as the only thing that matters, and judges people based on such. When talking to Mei at the beginning of the arc, Gojo seems to show some respect to her, while talking down to a different sorcerer that he sees as weak. And later, while discussing the importance of keeping the world of Jujutsu and curses shielded from the public with his best friend Geto, the two have a conversation that will shape the entirety of this story for the foreseeable future.
Looking out for the weak and protecting them is honestly so exhausting.
Survival of the weakest. That's the proper shape of a proper society. The weak help each other and discourage strength.
This is when the story of Jujutsu Kaisen is flipped on its head. These polarizing ideals are so far away from the perspective that these two inevitably end up taking. Gojo's belittling of the weak echoes what Geto will inevitably become by the end of this portion of the story, and later on during the events of Jujutsu Kaisen 0. While Geto, on the other hand, sticks to a mindset that eerily resembles the mindset of Yuji Itadori pre-Shibuya. Gojo scoffs at this idea, and throughout the story continues to bring up strength as the end-all be-all in any given situation. He shows very little urgency about the mission he's undertaken that could determine the fate of Jujutsu society as they know it, because he's convinced that between himself and Geto, nothing can take them down.
It will be my will, and my heart, my soul will live on after the assimilation.
You changed your home screen?
Isn't she hot?
Listen!
Then they meet Riko, the star plasma vessel, and the purpose of their mission, a weakling meant to be sacrificed so that the strong may continue to protect the world. From Gojo's current perspective, this should be a reassurance of the mindset that he's convinced himself of. At first, he disregards her, calls her weak to her face, and belittles her like he belittles others. But as the trip continues, Gojo starts to look at Riko from a different perspective. Up until now, Gojo had only seen non-sorcerers as insignificant, a faceless mass of a populace too weak to defend themselves. Thus, the idea of fighting for them or protecting them seemed worthless to him. But here he is, saving not only this girl, but her caretaker as well. Riko is a literal affirmation of the worldview that he's convinced himself of. And yet, he goes out of his way to stay up all night, several nights in a row, to ensure her safety. He prolongs their trip to ensure that the girl he rarely knows, the girl he's meant to help sacrifice, gets to enjoy her life a little bit more. Riko is a reality check for Gojo that all of the normies that he looked down upon at the beginning of this story are not just faceless nobodies that exist solely for him to protect or dismiss. They're people, with feelings, dreams, aspirations, and lives. And here he is, the strongest sorcerer there is, using everything in his power to give this girl a little bit more life. And, if Geto's words are to be believed later in the story, fight even Master Tengen himself to preserve her freedom. Despite his arrogance, despite his beliefs in power triumphing over all, Gojo's time with Riko reveals a side to him that had previously been hidden. Not an arrogant god, but a virtuous man willing to drain himself to the bone to ensure the safety of an innocent. But unfortunately, that arrogance is still there, and it was about to cost him. On top of being visually spectacular, the first battle between Gojo and Toji Fushiguro serves to do one thing: shatter the arrogance of Satoru Gojo. After being played like a fiddle by the hands of Toji in order to get Gojo to let his guard down, he's wounded for the first time possibly in his life. Still clinging to the arrogance that once defined him, however, he encourages Geto to take Riko and run, convincing him that he's still capable of dealing with this foe. Regardless of who the stranger was, no one was more powerful than him. Right? Just when he was on the cusp of reforming, to reshaping his worldview into something more noble, Gojo is defeated for the first time in his life, brought to the brink of death by a man who couldn't even use curse energy. It seems so tragic. Just when he seemed to have reformed from an arrogant kid on a power trip to the makings of a real hero, his life is ripped away from him, thanks to the very same confidence he used to cling to. Well, it might have been anyway.
Hey there. It's been a while, huh?
Now we arrive to the moment that everyone's been waiting for, the culmination of this entire portion of the story. Here we see Gojo after cheating death itself, his once iconic arrogance shattered to pieces by the formidable Toji, in a whole new worldview born in front of his eyes. After understanding the very essence of cursed energy, Gojo finally understands what it means to be the strongest, to reach the level only he can achieve. Before, he only saw power as a tool, an engine to fuel his resolve and worldview, to protect the faceless normies that he once looked down upon. Now, after seeing the cracks in his old worldview, his arrogance, the system that governs him, and the very system of magic that he harnesses, he comes to the ultimate realization of what it means to be powerful. He was blessed with these powers by heaven and earth, not to conquer or destroy, but to protect and preserve. While everyone else a part of the Jujutsu world are either controlled by the society surrounding it or are the ones controlling it, Gojo has come to the realization that such systems don't govern him. He can exist beyond the system. He alone can influence the change needed for a better world. And thus,
I alone am the honored one.
These are the building blocks that shape everything Gojo becomes moving forward. In everything Jujutsu Kaisen 0 and onwards, we see Gojo constantly challenging the flawed system that exists around him, siding with both Yuta and Yuji when both were set for execution, challenging the head of the society and calling him out directly on his underhanded plays involving Yuji, and meddling with the affairs of other clans. After this post-death realization, he uses his powers not to dominate, but to ensure the world is a better place with him gone. His presence alone is able to fundamentally change the outcome of certain laws and decisions made within the society. He alone is leading the charge in raising the next generation of sorcerers, a generation all with potential to be as powerful as him, to stand against the undercurrents of corruption that he spent his entire adult life fighting against. That if one day, if he falls, they'll be able to pick up where he left off and be able to keep this world safe as he had. And that is what makes this scene so special. And that is what makes Satoru Gojo the strongest. Gojo may be the face of modern anime cool guys, but underneath all the hype moments and aura lies a character with so many layers that it would take hours to fully talk about everything that makes him so special and so fascinating as a character. I barely mentioned his relationship with Geto and how that plays into his mindset moving forward into JJK 0, or his battle with Sukuna. He's an everlasting gobstopper when it comes to character studies, and I'll likely return to him as well as Jujutsu Kaisen in general at a later date. Characters like Yuta, Maki, and Sukuna I'd absolutely love to do videos on in the future, but I think this is a good way to dip my toes into covering Jujutsu Kaisen on this channel. Perfect timing with Season 3 just getting announced now. Well, with that, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.